McDonald Middle School, class of 2026. This is Mrs. Kilday. Today we're going to spend some time going back over some of the items that Mr. Hyde Knight noticed were confusing from last week's videos. So today is going to be a lot of review, looking back over the food webs and the food chains, and also helping you make some connections from your webbing activity that you completed for Thursday. Your activity for today is going to be watching a Bill Nye video, so hopefully that will also help to clarify some of the misconceptions that we saw from last week's work. Now, on Thursday, we're going to start moving into what happens in our ecosystems when there's some kind of a disruption. How does that impact the chains within the web? And then we'll be moving into what can we do to help prevent, stop, or fix some of these disruptions in our ecosystem. So I'm going to start with moving into just kind of a review. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen here. And I'm going to show you, here you'll see an example of a food web. Now, when you're looking at this food web, you might notice that there are all kinds of arrows originating. Remember, the original source of the energy is the sun, which is missing in this diagram. But the sun energy is used by our producers and then consumed by other organisms, our consumers, and it moves on up into the chain. Now, webs are made up of multiple chains. So really today what we're going to do is we're going to look at some food webs and we're going to see if you can identify all the chains. One thing that we noticed from the activity that you completed on Thursday is that people were really surprised or had a lot of questions about the amount of arrows that were on the activity showing that energy flow from one organism to another. And our food webs do get very complicated. There are a lot of chains. There are a lot of interconnected organisms within our ecosystem. So let's see, our food web. So our food web is made up of that group of interconnected food chains. So I want you to take a look at the food web that I have right here. How many different chains can you count in this food web? Okay, so remember, we want to start down with our producers. So in this case, we have two producers. We have grasses, probably grasses that you're going to find on land, as well as we have aquatic plants. We don't want to forget that we have producers occurring in our waters as well as on land. So let's see, how many did you find? I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the different chains that are located within this web. So, did you find we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you end up finding 8? Now think back to your activity on Thursday. Think of all those arrows that you had connected. It's not unusual to end up having 8 or more interconnected food webs make up one food chain. Let me re-say that. It's not unusual. It is not unusual to find up to or more than 8 interconnected food chains or food. It is not unusual within a food web to find 8 chains in that web. So let's move on to another food web. So let's do the same thing. Take a look at this food web. Take a look at the different producers and consumers that are in it. I want you to try to count as many of the food chains that you can find within this web. So I'm going to pause and give you about 10 seconds to 20 seconds to find those, and then I'm going to walk you through the different ones that are there. All right, so let's take a look. How many did you get? As we start to move through this, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. 18 different chains that make up this web. Now, another thing that we touched on last week was the ecology energy pyramid. And the big idea that you want to know from here is that as energy moves from one organism to another, it is about 10% of the energy that gets transferred. So because of that, we think of our ecological energy pyramid. We have to have a lot of the producers down here at the lower level, and then as we start to move up on the consumers, the higher up on the food chains that we get, or in this case it's a representation with a pyramid, the decreasing amount of organisms that we see. And that was one of our questions for you, was why is it so important to have so many producers? And it's because not all of the energy that is stored within this wheat or grass that we're looking at can be transferred to the organism that eats it. Some of that energy is lost. And remember that some of that energy gets lost through heat and reproduction and movement. And therefore, we need to have a lot of producers to be consumed. Each step in the food chain or the web is called a trophic level. Producers make up that first level. So that's just that bottom layer of the ecological pyramid. And remember that this pyramid is this diagram that shows a relationship with the amount of energy or matter contained within each level in your food web or chain. So only about 10% of the energy that these grasses have is going to be able to be transferred into the rabbits, which is then only 10% of their energy gets transferred to the snake, and only 10% of the energy of that is transferred to the hawk. So therefore, we need a lot of producers in order to have that energy to keep that first level of consumer alive. Within ecosystems such as forests, energy is constantly traveling from one trophic level to another, and then it gets recycled back into the system. Energy is passed along in ecosystems, and that there cannot be an infinite trophic step because the energy that gets lost from one step to another. At each stage of this trophic pyramid, energy is lost through metabolism, growth, reproduction, waste production, and other aspects of. So in review, here are our big ideas for today. That there are multiple food chains that make up a food web. The first food web that we saw had 8 chains. That second one had 18. The other thing that we're looking at, and you'll see this diagram up right now, is that our ecological energy pyramid has to be really wide at the bottom. We have to have a lot of producers in order to supply the energy for consumers. And as we go up the pyramid and as we go up the level of consumers, we find that there is a lot less organisms at the top as compared to the producers in the bottom. Now, to help you out with that today, we are going to have an opportunity to watch a Bill Nye video. So I'm going to bring over the plan book for today. So what you're going to notice here is a couple things. One, there is a link to the Bill Nye video that you are going to watch today. Also, there is a document called Bill Nye Food Webs. If you would like, there are some questions on this video. So if you click on that, it's going to go ahead and open this document. Bring that over for you guys. This document is just going to ask you kind of the big ideas from the video today. You are going to see some of these questions in your exit ticket, so it's a good idea to at least look these questions over so you're mindful of what you want to be looking for while you're watching the video, kind of what are the big ideas. Now, when you click the video link that is provided, you are going to come to a website called Dailymotion. The video is going to be a little bit minimized, so I'd suggest expanding it so that it fills up the whole screen. Push play, and then you are ready to go. All right, don't forget to answer those exit ticket questions, and we will see you in a little bit.